Hello and welcome. Thank you for taking the time to review the financial aid portion of online student orientation. This presentation is just a general overview of just some important financial aid information. We believe it's good for everyone to know. If you do have questions specific to your situation, our contact information will be available at the end of the presentation, so please do not hesitate to reach out to us. So first, I just wanted to introduce you to the financial aid office. We have our Director of Financial Aid, Angie Robinson. She's also our VA contact, so if you do have VA benefits, she is the person to reach out to about those. Second, you have myself, the Assistant Director of Financial Aid. I'm Nathan Eaton. We also have our Financial Aid Advisor, Jan Ozuna, and then also our Financial Aid Assistant, Alicia Wolf, who also does help with other departments, so you'll see her in various roles around the college. If you do have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. So this first slide is a map of campus. As a student, you'll generally be entering here at the first entrance here, entrance 1, which faces the main parking lot. If you're coming to the financial aid office, when you enter there, you'll take a left and head toward the student services area. There'll be a check-in desk there as you come in, and they'll contact us in the financial aid office. We do allow for walk-ins. You can always call in to make an appointment as well. So the first item I wanted to cover today is how aid adjusts. So for student loans, you do have to at least be in 6 credit hours to qualify for a federal student loan. That same rule applies for the summer semester. Even though it is a shorter term, you still have to be at least in 6 credit hours to qualify for those federal student loans. As for grant assistance, if you do qualify, the Pell Grant is awarded on quarters. So if you're a full-time student, anything from 12 credit hours and above is considered full-time. You'd receive your maximum Pell Grant for the semester. If you're a 3/4 time student, that's 9 to 11 credit hours. You get about 3/4 of your eligibility. If you're a half-time student, which is 6 to 8 hours, you get half your eligibility. And then if you're less than half-time, which is 5 or less hours, you'd get essentially 1/4 of your eligibility for that semester. If you do also qualify for the online MAP grant, that's awarded a little differently than the Pell Grant. For that, you do have to at least be in 3 credit hours to qualify, and then it does award per credit hour up to 15 credit hours. So a little different than the Pell Grant, but still similar concept. As you're adding and dropping classes, that can change the eligibility in any given semester. So another topic we would like to hit pretty hard are just the federal student loan limits. So both in a given semester, but also over your lifetime, there are limits on federal student loans you can receive. So for a given semester, your loan eligibility is determined by 2 primary factors. So if you're a dependent or independent student, but also what grade level you are at the college. So if you're a dependent student who's a freshman, the most student loan you can receive in a given semester is $2,750. And then as you progress up to a sophomore level, you get another $500 per semester, and then up to a junior level, an additional $500 once again per semester in those federal student loans. And once you get to that senior level, the senior level amounts remain the same as far as how much you can give in one semester. Now, as an independent student, you essentially get $2,000 more per semester than a dependent student. So an independent freshman can get up to $4,750 per semester, and then that'll progress up to sophomore, junior level as you're progressing as well, just like a dependent student. But another item to keep in mind is the lifetime limit for federal student loans. So as a dependent student, the most you can borrow in undergraduate student loans is $31,000. For an independent student, the maximum you can receive is $57,500. And something to keep in mind with those items is anything you've borrowed at a previous school. So especially if you're a second degree student and you've gotten a bachelor's already, any loans you took out for your first bachelor's still applies toward that lifetime limit, even though you're here pursuing a second degree, or if you're here transferring from another school, those lifetime limits still apply. So you can only use what's left in your lifetime limit here at Methodist College. Now, if you're a graduate student, they do give you additional loan eligibility above what an undergraduate gets. So in a given semester, a graduate student can get $10,250 per semester in graduate student loans. And then also they increased that lifetime limit to $138,500 in graduate student loans. But something to keep in mind, any student loans you took out as an undergraduate student still applies toward that lifetime limit. So if you've borrowed $30,000 as an undergraduate student, you'd have $108,500 left as a graduate student. So just something we like to really hit hard on, especially on those lifetime limits, because if you have borrowed previously and you're transferring to us and you think you borrowed a fair amount, please come talk to us. We try to track it as best we can if we think you're going to run out of loan eligibility before graduation, but it never hurts for you as a student to reach out to us if you think there could be issues that you're aware of. So if you do qualify for grant assistance, something to keep in mind is there is a lifetime limit on how much grants you can receive. So essentially for the Pell Grant, the way it's calculated is you, over your lifetime as an undergraduate student pursuing your first bachelor's degree, you can take up to 12 semesters as a full-time student and receive that Pell Grant. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you have been at other schools before us and you've used that Pell Grant, that applies toward that lifetime limit now that you're here at Methodist College as well. So if you think you've used multiple semesters for that, definitely contact us so we can make sure to see where you're at, to make sure you'll have that grant assistance throughout your entire program here. Also, the Illinois MAP grant, once again, a little different than the Pell Grant. You are able to get up to 135 credit hours paid through the Illinois MAP grant. Similar process if you've been in another school before us. Those hours that you used there still apply toward that maximum. So just keep that in mind as you're progressing here. If you do suspect you're getting close to those limits, just come talk to us and we can check to see where you're at to make sure you'll be fine, or give you an idea where you might run out if you are nearing those limits. Now, as you're choosing your classes, we do always recommend talking to your advisor and figuring out what's going to work best for you academically in any given semester, and then come talk to us in the financial aid office to make sure that's going to work financially. The reason why we highlight this, if you're going to be taking less than full-time enrollment repeatedly, to come talk to us, is once again with those loan limits. Since you're able to take the same amount of loan as long as you're at least in 6 credit hours, if you're consistently less than full-time, you run a risk of hitting that lifetime loan limit before you actually reach graduation. So we want to make sure, if you think you'll be consistently taking 3 classes every semester and it'll take you 7 semesters to graduate, we want to make sure you have that eligibility to get you through graduation, or at least you're aware of when you might run out so you can plan accordingly. We always try to track this as best as we can, but it always helps if you're aware there might be an issue to come talk to us. Now, you'll probably hear this a lot throughout your different orientation materials, but for communication, all your financial aid communications are going to go to your Methodist College student email account. And it's very important that you're checking that account frequently, because generally all communications from the college, be it our office or other departments around the campus, are all going to be coming to that student email account. And if we have updates or things you need to know, it's important that you're keeping an eye on that your entire time as a student. One of the top items we generally have to email to your student account are just the reminders of additional steps that need to be completed as part of the student loan process. If it's your first time taking out a student loan, you'd have to complete online entrance loan counseling and a master promissory note as part of the loan process. But also here at Methodist College, we do require you to accept your student loans every semester. If you've been at a previous school, it's possible you might have accepted your loans for the entire school year at one time, but we do require you to accept it every term, and those loans won't appear as pending on your bill until you've actually accepted them. So it is important that if you are planning on taking out those loans, that you do accept them every semester. Like I mentioned, if you're a first-time borrower, you'll need to do that entrance loan counseling, which is online. Just kind of general overview of loan information, how repayment works, things like that. Try not to get yourself too caught up on some of the exercises they have you do. They'll have you do some budgeting, some projections on how much you think you'll borrow. It's all just supposed to be based on estimates, so don't feel like you have to get an exact concrete number. It's just to kind of give you an idea as far as what your repayment might look like once you're done, things like that. But it's perfectly fine to use estimates throughout that process. Then the other item is that master promissory note. Just making sure essentially it's your official agreement with the Department of Education that you plan on paying back that student loan once you do finish with college. But we're just not able to process those loans fully until you have all required items done before then. Now this slide is just a screenshot of the website you'd go to complete your loan items. They used to use studentloans.gov, and they're in the transition going to this new website, which is this studentaid.gov website. If you go to studentloans.gov, it'll still redirect you here for now. And then you have the option to either log in or you can click the drop-down menu as far as what you're trying to do. The login name is the same FSA ID and password used to complete your FAFSA, and that's generally going to be your login name and password for any of the federal websites that you go to as part of the financial aid process. But that's how you go through to complete that entrance loan counseling and that master promissory note. Now, if you do anticipate needing to apply for additional assistance or you know you have outside assistance coming, please talk to us. If your parents looking at a Parent Plus loan, if you're a graduate student looking at a Graduate Plus loan, if you have VA benefits, private student loans, outside scholarships, things like that, please come talk to us. Often there's additional paperwork or steps we need you to complete as part of getting those applied to your account, but also for just something as simple as if you have an outside scholarship, it's good for us to know it's coming, so we can let the bursar know to expect that, just so we're aware if there's a due balance on your account, we know that $1,000 scholarship should cover that remaining balance that's currently showing on there. Like I mentioned, for Parent Plus loans and Graduate Plus loans, there's some additional steps you need to complete. We're in the process of creating a form for veterans to complete to use their VA benefits. As I mentioned, Angie Robinson, our Director of Financial Aid, is our contact person for those VA benefits. And if you are looking at private student loans, this link here at the bottom gives you kind of a general overview of loan information and how to apply, things like that. Now, if we do reach out to you, like I said, primarily through your student email account, but on occasion we will actually mail things to you as well about additional paperwork or steps that need to be completed. Please get those done as soon as possible. The most common reason we'd be reaching out to you is what's called the verification process. Some of you might have already gotten something from us about this, but essentially the Department of Education selects 1 in 3 students for verification, and it's their way of having a spot check to make sure what you reported on the FAFSA is correct. But in these cases, when we're requesting additional paperwork, we're generally not able to award you financial aid or continue processing your aid until all that paperwork's been turned into us, and we've had a chance to review that and finish our portion of that process. So please get that into us as soon as possible. And if you do have questions about what exactly we're asking for, please do not hesitate to reach out to us so we can help you along through that process. Now, for those of you who might need to use a refund from your financial aid to help with living expenses, something like that, just a few points to highlight on here just to be aware of. Generally, our refunds are issued about 30 days after the start of classes, so just be aware of that there is that sometime you have to wait before you receive that refund in any given semester. Keep in mind, failing to submit paperwork to us we're requesting can delay those refunds. Also, the timing of outside financial aid. So if you are getting a private student loan, an outside scholarship, something like that, once that's received and applied to your account, if that is going to result in a refund, we have to wait till those funds are actually received at the school before that refund can be issued. So often those refunds are delayed depending on when those outside sources issue those funds to the school. Always keep an eye on your ledger once you register and as your aid's getting awarded, because that's going to let you know if you have a due balance or what your estimated refund would possibly be in any given semester. And another note, if you are receiving the Illinois MAP grant, once again, like other outside sources of aid, we have to wait until the school has actually received those funds from the state. Generally, the state doesn't issue those funds to us till close to the end of the semester. So for the fall semester, we generally wouldn't expect to receive those funds until December. And if that's going to result in a refund for you, you'll have to wait until that time in December for that refund to be issued to you. Similar in the spring semester, usually those funds aren't received until May. So you'd expect to receive that refund if you're going to get one from the MAP grant in May as well. If you haven't received the MAP grant before, there is no MAP grant during the summer term, so that wouldn't come into play at all during the summer semesters. All right, so we wanted to just kind of discuss a little bit on some of the best ways to contact the financial aid office. We mentioned on here leaving a voicemail if we missed your call. Right now, as long as there's still a shelter-in-place order for the state, we generally are recommending for you to send an email to us in place of calling and leaving a voicemail. Many of us are currently working remotely from home and don't have access to our voicemail, so the best way to contact us is through email. Now, once the shelter-in-place order is lifted and we're returning back to campus, we do ask that if you missed your call, to leave a voicemail at that time. We won't return any just missed calls and just a missed number unless there's a voicemail to go along with it, just because we want to make sure we know who we're calling back. And also, just like you, we often get those spam calls and we don't want to be calling back a telemarketer or something like that. Now for the email, just like how we're going to generally send emails to your Methodist College student email account, it's important when you're emailing us that you're emailing from your student account as well. A big part of that is for privacy reasons. If you're emailing from your Gmail account, we can't confirm it is actually you who's emailing. So if you email from your Gmail account, we might answer a general question for you, but we're not going to be able to give any specific information just for security purposes. Also, if you're emailing us or when that time comes and we return back to campus, you're giving us a call, please allow for 2 business days for us to respond. It generally doesn't take us that long to return phone calls or return emails, but during peak times, like beginning of a semester starting, it can take us a little more time to get back to you just due to the high volume of phone calls and emails. So yeah, we just ask for you, please give us a couple of days before you send us another email or give us another call, just so we don't have an old voicemail from you from 2 days ago and a new one from you, and then you get called twice by 2 different people, things like that. A final item to keep in mind, if your parent or your spouse or you have another friend or family member who's helping you through this process and you want them to be able to talk to us, you would need to complete a FERPA release form for us to be able to talk about any detailed information with them. Now, if your parent calls in, we can talk about general information like limits, as far as just like what a semester limit is for a sophomore, things like that. But if they want to know specific information as far as what you qualify for, we can't really discuss those things with a parent, a spouse, or other people unless you give them that permission through that FERPA release form. All right, so next, understanding your ledger. If you have not already listened to Amy Irwin, our bursar's presentation, I highly recommend that you do that. While our areas do overlap, she does have a lot of separate information that won't be in our presentation that's important for you to know. One thing she'd be, I'm sure, mentioning is the importance for you to know how to check your ledger and understand that ledger that you're reading. We're always here to answer questions for you, and we're very happy to help whenever needed. But it's important that you are able to do that on your own, partially just because we're not always here to answer questions. And if your question is simply, do I have a balance or do I have a refund? That's something you can easily do on your own through your student account. And down here at the bottom of the presentation, there's actually a pretty good link there to our website that gives you kind of a step-by-step process on how to look at your ledger through your student account. Now, withdrawing from classes, anytime you're thinking about withdrawing from a class, be it one of your classes or all your classes, please come talk to the financial aid office, or at least send us an email so we can check your account. Depending on the situation, withdrawing can result in your financial aid being reduced. In more extreme circumstances, it could even result to you losing your aid completely for the semester or losing eligibility for financial aid going forward. So we do always recommend anytime you're looking at withdrawing, please come talk to us just so we can let you know how that's going to affect you going forward or currently for the semester. Also, something else to keep in mind, if for some reason something were to come up where you had to stop attending classes, at the end of the semester, if the instructor reports you as essentially you failed the class and stopped attending, you're essentially viewed as a unofficial withdrawal, and we have to follow the same process where your aid might have to be reduced or taken away based on when you stopped attending. So just keep that in mind. If something were to come up and you feel like you can't attend classes anymore, please contact us here at the college just so we can help you through that process so you don't have any surprises going forward. So I'm sure many of you are wondering kind of what happens next from here as you're registering for classes. What we will do as a financial aid office, once you're registered here in the upcoming week or two, we're going to start making sure your financial aid gets updated based on how many credit hours you're actually in, and then we'll actually start sending out notifications to you. On the presentation mentions by mail, most likely since we're working remotely right now, we'll actually be sending emails to you, to your student account, giving you some updates. Now it'll depend on kind of a timing on when you get registered. So if you are fully registered for classes, like I said, we can start that process. So you should hear from us probably in the next week or so is generally our goal after orientation. If you're able to partially register, but you have some classes that our registrar has to help you out with, we do have to wait till that's finalized as well, so that can delay how soon we'll get the updated information to you. And then for some reason, if you're not able to register for classes at all, just keep in mind, once again, we can't send you any updates till you are officially registered for classes. So if you do get registered at a later date, don't hesitate to send us an email just so we can make sure that we get updates out to you as soon as possible from that date of registration. Now, what we'll include in that email we send it to you is we'll include a copy of your statement showing your pending financial aid. Once again, keep in mind that any student loans that are offered to you won't show up on that statement because those loans have to be actually accepted before they'll show up as pending on there. If we do anticipate your bill will be paid in full by both your grant aid, your student loans, depending on the aid you're receiving, we just include the additional steps as far as the loan process, what you need to do next. If your bill's not paid in full, we'll provide some additional information and resources. So if you're a dependent student, how your parent can apply for a Parent Plus loan, or information on how to apply for a private student loan, things like that to fill that gap with you. And also, of course, if you do still have a balance after your financial aid, you always have that option to set up a payment plan for that remaining balance. Amy most likely should be mentioning that in her presentation as far as how the payment plan process works. As I mentioned, it's always important to know the timing of your refund for personal financial planning. As I mentioned before, the earliest you'd possibly receive a refund in any given semester is at least 30 days into the semester. And if you're getting outside aid, that's often going to be delayed, at least to some extent. If you have not already done your 2020-2021 FAFSA, please do so as soon as possible. That's the FAFSA that'll be used to apply for financial aid for summer 2020, fall 2020, and spring 2021. So if you have not done that already, please do so as soon as possible, just so we can get that process going for you and let you know what you qualify for as soon as we can. Now, on the orientation website, we have a financial aid packet, which is some additional information for you to look at. One of the highlights on there will be our cost sheet, which gives you a cost of tuition fees per credit hour for the different programs. So you just need to find the correct cost sheet to match your program that you're going to be in, and that'll give you an idea what your tuition fees will be per credit hour going forward. Now, that's just kind of used as a projection for you to give an idea. So if you know you'll be in 6 hours, you'll have a pretty good idea as far as what those tuition fees cost will be for you in the upcoming semester. We also include just some more information on the financial aid limits, just a summary sheet on there that just breaks it down a little bit further than we did on the orientation presentation today. So this final slide is just our contact information. As I've said, please do not hesitate to reach out to us if you do have questions, whether it's questions from this presentation or if you already had questions about yourself personally. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us. I do have both our email and the phone number to call to reach the college. I do recommend for the time being to primarily email us, just as long as the state's still under a shelter-in-place order. Most of us will mostly be working remotely, and we don't have access to our phones or our voicemails, but we do have access to our email, so this financial aid email address is the best way to reach to us. And then myself, Angie Robinson, our director, Jana Ozuna, our financial aid advisor, and Alicia Wolf, our financial aid assistant, we all have access to this general financial aid email account. So we'll make sure the right person in our office gets your email as you're sending those to us. So thank you again for taking the time to review this presentation. And thank you very much, and welcome to Methodist College.